we're going to learn about CSS Grid and how to create a grid like the one you have on your screen. The CSS Grid is a powerful tool used in creating layout designs for websites. On your screen is a layout for a basic website. We have header, which stretches from here all the way to here. We have main content, which is this big box. To our right, we have two smaller boxes, and beneath we have another box called footer, which starts from the left hand side all the way to the right hand side. I was able to achieve this look through what we call CSS Grid. When I resize our web browser, our grid does not break. Let me teach you CSS Grid. If you are ready, I'm ready. Why not hop to our code editor and kick things off by writing our first line of code and learn how CSS Grid works. Here we are in our code editor. Let's go ahead and create an HTML file called CSS Grid.html, and then let us create the basic file structure for our HTML document. So learn CSS Grid like this. Please, let's reference our CSS file, a file that I've not yet created. So I just put link, and then here I'm going to have it as style.css. Then I'll create the style.css. So I just put style.css, and the files are already hooked up, okay, with the help of that link. All right, we are good to go. So the two important files have been created. So the next thing we are going to do now is to go into our HTML file, which is called CSS-grid, and then we are going inside our body. And now, one thing I want you to know is that CSS Grid works almost the same as the Flexbox. If you have not watched my Flexbox episode, which is our last video, I would advise you to go and watch that particular video because it's going to help you understand the CSS Grid better. All right. Okay, so now let's go ahead and then create our container. So we're going to first of all create a container element using HTML, and then give it a class. Now that class will be used as a reference point in our CSS code. So we're first of all going to create a div. Okay, so this is going to be a container. Okay, so in our previous episode we talked about flex container. In this episode we're going to be talking about grid container. So with Flexbox we have flex container. With Gridbox we also have something like grid container. Okay, so there's a container in grid called grid container. So let's open it up this way. All right, so for now we are done with HTML part. Let's go ahead and then reference this in our CSS code. So I'll simply copy the name of our container or class, which is called grid container, and then we go to our CSS file, and then we put dot, and then we paste the name of our class there. Perfect. So In Flexbox, if you are to turn on the power of flex, you put what we call display and then you put flex. Okay, this is in the case of Flexbox. What about grid? Very simple. In grid, all you need to do is to turn on grid by putting display grid like this. Okay, so when you're working with Flexbox, you put display flex. The same way applies to grid. When you're working with grid, you put display grid. Okay, after doing this, we need to define the height and the width for our container, okay, or our grid. So I'm going to give it something like, maybe let's say width or height, and then we're going to give it 100 viewport height. Okay, and then our width can be auto. When you leave it, it's going to automatically take the width of our web browser. But if you want, you can put width and then also give it 100% viewport width like this. Now, displaying grid on the web browser would not be possible, or you'll not be able to see it, if I don't put or apply a border, okay, border design to our smaller boxes. So right now I'm going to give our smaller boxes some borders so that you can see it visually. If not, you'll not understand what we're doing. So I'm going to target our container, and then any div element inside that container is going to have a border of 2 pixel solid and then a black color like this. This way you'll be able to see whatever that I do on the web browser. All right, okay, so now let's go ahead and then open our file on the web browser and then start assigning elements or working on our divs so that you see it visually. Okay, so now let's go to our web browser. This is our web browser, and this is a link to our HTML file. So whatever we do at the back end or on our code editor is going to display here. Now let me take you to my demo, and this is what we're going to achieve at the end of this video. So before we actually begin, we need to tell our web browser the number of rows we need for our grid, number of columns we need for our grid. If not, our web browser will have no idea whatever we're doing. So we need to assign columns and rows. So grid is all about columns and rows, playing with columns and rows. So with this example, we have one row here from here all the way, which is our header. We have another row here from here all the way to here. So this big box is made of 2 rows. Okay, so from here, this smaller box all the way to here is a row, and another row starts from here all the way to small box 2. Okay, so this big box consists of 2 rows from here all the way to here, and from here all the way to here, and the footer is another row from left to right. So in total we have 4 rows: the header, main box, which is a combination of 2 rows. Okay, we merge them together. All right, so we merge them. You can split it. Okay, so from here all the way to here is 2, 1, 2. Okay, so we have 2 in the middle, 1 on top, 1 down, which is 4 rows. Now let's talk about the columns, which are the vertical boxes. So starting from right, we have 1 column here. So on top all the way down we have another column from here all the way down, but right now you can't see it because I smashed them together. Because of that, you are not seeing that. So we have another one starting from here all the way to here, and then we have one to the left. Okay, so in total we have 3 columns, and then we have 4 rules displayed right now. So let's go to our code editor and then also define that and see how we can achieve this look. So I'll take you to our code editor, and then all we need to do is to go inside our container, because that's where we want to display our rows and our columns. So in order to display rows and columns, or define the number of rows and columns you need for your website, there's what we call grid template. Okay, grid template. So grid template rule. Okay, so grid template, and then we first of all work with the number of rows. So with the number of rows, all you need to do is to assign the pixel for the first row, second row, third row, and then fourth row, depending on the number of rows you want. All right, so now let's continue. My first row is going to have 50 pixel. The second row is going to have 1 fraction of the available space. The third row is going to also take 1 fraction of the available space, and then the fourth row is going to take 100 pixel of the available space. So these are absolute values. The pixels, that means they don't change. But with the fractions, when you resize your web browser, okay, they're going to be adjusted in that way. Okay, they're going to stretch and they can also be compressed. So that's the advantage of using fractions. Okay, so you can have 1 fr, 1 fr, 1 fr, meaning you're going to have they're going to share proportionally to the available space on the web browser. All right, so that's the advantage of fr, that's the fraction. Let me explain to you what I just did. So our first rule, which is the header, we gave it 50 pixel. So from here to here is 50 pixel. Our second rule, which is from here to here, stretching to the left, we also give it 1 fraction of the available space, and the available space is between here and then here. So 1 fraction of the available space. I also give our third row the same 1 fraction of the available space. And finally, our fourth row, which is the footer, I gave it 100 pixel of the web browser, okay, or of the available space beneath here. So this 100 pixel. All right. So right now we have defined number of rows we need. So our web browser is now has the knowledge of the available rows we need, or the rows we need to be displayed. Now the next thing we need to do is to define grid template column. Okay, so grid template column, and then this is the number of columns you want to assign. So I'm going to give 3 columns, which are going to be in a form of fractions. So a fraction of the available space, another fraction of the available space, and then another fraction of the available space. So they're going to be shared accordingly on the web browser. Okay, all right, so now we have defined the number of rows and columns with the help of grid template rules and grid template columns. What next? Let's go to our CSS Grid and then start defining our items. Okay, so the first element we will be talking about is the header. The header, which is this one, the header. So let's go ahead and see that is how that is done. So I'll take you to my code editor. Before we build our layout, let me show you, or let me give you a proof on our rows and columns. Okay, so I'll write div, and then I'll put here item. After that, we duplicate 1, 2, 3 like this, and then we go to our web browser, reload, and now we have 1, 2, 3. So this is our first row, and we created, remember, we created 4 rows. Okay, so let's continue. So we have 1, 2, 3, and this serves as 1 row. Okay, so 1 row like that, and it has 50 pixel of the available space. All right, let's go to the next row. So simply duplicate my line, my code. I'll continue 1, 2, 3, and that will serve as our second row, which is one fraction of the available space. So from here to here. So right now there are 2 rows, here all the way to here, 1 row, the second row. Okay, let's continue, and then 1, 2, 3, reload. This here comes our third row, which is also a fraction of the available space. So this and this should have the same size because we give them 1 FR. So 1 FR, 1 FR. And when you take a good notice of this, you can see that we have 3 columns. 1, 2, 3. Okay, good. And then our final row also take 1, 2, 3, which is going to be 100% of the available space. So come down and then reload this page, Control R, and you can see here comes our final row, which is also from here to here. Okay, good. So that is it. That's how it is laid out. We have the rows and then we have our columns here. Now we can separate them by using what we call gaps. Okay, so I'll take you to my CSS, and then we can apply what we call a gap. So gap, and then we're going to give it 10 pixel, and then we go back to our web browser, reload, and now we have gaps around or surrounding our boxes. Now you see how nice it looks. Okay, these are gaps around it, surrounding our boxes. All right, so now let's go ahead and then build our layout, which is like this. Okay, so it's all about smashing 2 boxes together, or 3 of them together to form 1 row. Okay, it's very simple. And also, if you want to get the bigger box, you can smash these 4 boxes together and then smash the last boxes together. Okay, so that's it. That's how you do it. It's very, very, very simple. All right, so let's continue. But first of all, I will need to define my header. So I'll just clear this. I'll clear this, and then now what I will be doing is I'll just create a new div. So I'll put div, and then I'll define my header. So this is going to be a container for my header like this, and then I'll come down. So but first let's put the name of it. So that's header. Okay, so this is going to be the text inside that particular box, that particular container. Good. So now let's go back to our web browser and then now reload, and now we have this box here. Okay, so let's continue. I'll duplicate it, and then I'm going to give this a name, and this is going to be our main content. So this is the main content, and here too will be what? Content. And then I'll duplicate it again. So that's going to be the bigger box. That's the bigger container, okay, of the website, the main content of the website. And then we duplicate again, and this time we're going to give this maybe the content small. So this is going to be a smaller container. So let's put small here, okay, and then here we put small one. So let's put small one. Then we duplicate this line. We have another small there, which is small two. So, and that one too. So small one and small two are the same. Okay, let me take you to my demo, and you see, you can see small one and small two are the same, and this is the biggest container on the site. Okay, and we give our main content. So we are done. It's left with the final row or the final content, which is going to be the footer. So let's remove everything and put the footer. So this is going to be the footer row, and then here too we put the footer like this. Good. Now let's go to our web browser and then see how it looks now. Okay, we have not applied any special styling to it. So Control R, and now this is how it looks presently. All right. Okay. So now with the header, we need to send it to the right hand side. So we're stretching it. Okay. So we're stretching it to the right hand side. And now there's something, before we can do that, there's something we call row lines and column lines. With row lines, you start from this. That's where the row starts. Okay, so right now this is a column line. So here, this is where the column starts. So here is 1, 2, 3, and then 4. We also have row start, which starts from here. 1, 2, 3, and move that way. 4. Okay, that's how the row line moves. Okay, so we have row start, column start. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and see how that is done, and I hope you are getting the whole idea now. So I'll simply take the name of my class, the header, which is class header, and then I'll go to my style, and all I need to do is to come down this way, and I'll put my header there, and then with my header I'm going to give it grid, and the first thing we're going to be talking about is going to be the column start. Okay, column start. So grid, and you put column start, column start. So the column start is going to start from where? 1. Now let me show you why I'm putting 1 there. This is the starting of our column, which is 1. So this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, and this is 4. So it starts as 1 and then stretches all the way to 4. And that's how come we had this. Okay, so it starts here and stretches all the way to what? 4. So it's going to start here and then end at where? 4. All right, so let's go back. So we have grid column start at where? 4, and then it ends at, so in order to put the end, you need to put grid column end. Okay, So column and so it ends at where? 4. After doing this, let's go back to our web browser and then go to where we're developing it, or development link, reload, and I can see, because we have been able to push this to the right hand sides, okay, everything is restructuring. Okay, so there's now the two boxes that were here, those two boxes that were here have now been pushed down. Okay, so we're done with the header by pushing it from here to there, stretching it. Okay, so next up we are going to work on, let's see, now there's a shorthand for this. There's a shorthand for this. If you want the shorthand, please come down and then put grid column. Okay, just put grid column there. And now, where is the starting point? It starts from where? 1 and ends where? 4. So the starting, you put 1 there and then over 4. When you do this, it's the same as this. All right, the same as that. Let me prove to you. So I simply cut it, and then when I go back there, everything is going to remain the same. And as you can see, nothing changes after reloading the page. Okay, so that's the shorthand using what we call the grid column without adding the start or the end. So I guess bring my previous code back, and then I'll take this away like this. Fantastic. Now, if you're not clear, please go ahead and then rewatch this video. Okay, I'm trying my best to help you understand how the grid tool works in web design. Okay, so next up, we're done with the header. We're to look at our content, which is the big box. The big box. So we'll take that one. I'll just take it and then come to CSS here, and then all I need to do is to put dot and then put content, because this is the name of that particular big box. And now we're also going to apply the same grid column start, grid column end. So we have two boxes, this and that, smashing together. We also have here and here mashing or smashing together to form that big box. Okay, so when you look at it technically, there are 4 boxes inside. Okay, when you divide it this way and then this way, you draw a line from here to here and here to here, you can see 4 boxes in it. So that's what we're going to be doing. So first of all, we're looking at the grid column start and then end at here. We'll also be looking at the grid row start and then grid row end, which will end somewhere here. Let's go ahead and see how that is done, or let's go ahead and define that. So this is our development page. So I'll simply take you back to our code editor like this, and then we'll also have something like grid. So let's put grid column start at, where does it begin? So it starts from 1, and then we have grid column end, where does it end? Let's go ahead and see where it ends. So it starts from, the column starts from here, okay, and ends, which is 1, and ends at 1, 2, 3. So column ends at 3. Let's go ahead and put 3 here. This. Perfect. Now let's talk about the grid row start. Grid row start. So we put grid and then you put row and then you put start, okay, which starts from, guess it, 2. Why? Let me take you there. It does not start from 1. Okay, this is what we are talking about. Is this box that we are talking about? It doesn't start from 1. 1 is here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And because it's this box, we are starting from where? 2. 1, 2. So we're starting from 2 and extending it all the way to where? This side. So it starts from 2 and ends at where? So this is 2, 3, 4. So it starts from 2 and ends at where? 4. Alright, so let's go back there. And then now it starts from 2 and then ends where? So let's put end here. Put end at 4. Now let's go to our web browser and then reload the page. And now, as you can see, everything looks fine because that's what we applied to our code, and it is visually displayed on our web browser. Because of the available space to the right, now our 2 boxes automatically has been pushed to this right hand side, and that's what we were looking for. Next up, all we need to do or to work with is our footer, which starts from 1 and ends at where? 2. But we want to extend it to 4 because it looks similar to that of our header. So the code that we apply to our header, the same code will be applied to our footer. Alright, so let's go there, and then all I need to do is to just come down and then I will target my footer. So I just put footer, open it up, and then all I need to do is to copy my code from the header. So Control C, and then I'll just throw it in here because that's grid column starts at 1 and then ends at 4, which is the same as the header or the footer. Yeah, so they are the same. Now let's go to our web browser, reload this page, and boom, we have it there. Okay, so guys, that is it. That's all you need to know about the CSS Grid. There's a lot you can talk about when it comes to CSS Grid. Okay, but for now, this is okay. The extent I've covered is okay for you to be able to get started working with CSS Grid. In my next episode, we're going to be talking about a lot of cool stuff with CSS. So if you're not subscribed to this YouTube channel, consider subscribing to the channel. If this video was helpful, leave a comment, like this video. That way it will help the YouTube system to send this video to those that need it the most. I will appreciate. Thank you very much for dedicating your time to watch this video. I always try my best to simplify things to my capacity so you understand. Thank you, and I'll see you in my next episode. Take care.